All right, today we're going to dig into a company you probably think you know, but whose story has completely, and I mean completely, changed. We're breaking down Kyungdong Navien, looking at it not just as a familiar name, but as a global powerhouse, and honestly, a pretty fascinating case for investors.
For years and years, that one phrase was Kyungdong Navien. It's what everyone thought of, a super reliable domestic boiler company. It was a brand built on this idea of warmth, of family. But if that's still the picture in your head, well, you're missing the biggest part of the story.
Because here's the kicker. Today, almost 70% of Navien's money comes from outside of Korea. This isn't just a Korean boiler company anymore. Nope. It's a global export giant that has, pretty quietly, taken over some of the most competitive markets in the world.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll redefine what this company even is anymore. Then we'll get into their secret for global success. After that, we'll take a hard look at the financials, see what the numbers say. Then we'll peek into their future in HVAC, and we'll wrap it all up with a final checklist for any potential investors out there. Okay, first things first, we really need to update our definition of what Kyungdong Navien actually does. They've rebranded themselves as a living environment solutions provider. Now, yeah, that might sound a little like corporate speak, but it actually signals a really important shift. They've gone from just heating your water to managing the entire climate inside your home. We're talking heating, cooling, and even the air you're breathing.
And you can really see this strategy in action when you look at their products. They've taken that core technology they perfected in boilers and just expanded it everywhere. It's not just boilers and water heaters. Now you've got air purifiers, kitchen stuff under the Navien Magic brand, smart home systems, and their next huge push into HVAC.
So, how did this big change in strategy fuel their global takeover? Well, that brings us to their incredible international success story. Now, check this out. What's absolutely wild about this chart is how one region just dominates everything else. Look at that massive slice for North America. Over 60% of their entire business comes from there. That is the engine. Korea is still a solid home base, for sure, but the real growth story for this company, it's overwhelmingly an American one. I mean, it's one thing to sell some products in a new country. It's a completely different ballgame to become number one. And believe me, they didn't just get lucky. They had a very specific and, frankly, a very smart strategy. The secret sauce was something called hyperlocalization. See, instead of just shipping a Korean product and hoping for the best, they totally re-engineered it to solve local problems. In North America, a lot of homes have low gas pressure, which used to be a huge headache for installing these kinds of units. So what did Navien do? They designed a whole model just to solve that one problem, and installers loved them for it. In Russia, they built a series that could handle insane -40-degree winters and power grids that flicker all the time. It's that deep dive into local needs that turned them from just another foreign brand into a true market leader.
A great story is one thing, but for an investor, the numbers have to back it up, right? So let's pop the hood and do a quick financial health check.
And on the surface, the story is fantastic. Just look at this top-line growth. Between 2021 and 2025, revenue shot up to a record 1.5 trillion won. But here's what's even more important. Operating profit more than doubled in that same time. That tells you this isn't just growth for the sake of growth, it's very profitable growth. This is exactly the kind of steady upward trend investors want to see.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, this is where we have to dig a little deeper. If you just read the headlines, you'd see record sales. But if you look at the bottom line for 2025, you'll see a pretty surprising dip in net profit. So, what's going on?
After a really strong 2024, their net income dropped by over 27% in 2025. Now, a fall like that can look like a major red flag, so it's absolutely crucial to understand what was behind it. So here's the key takeaway. This drop was not because their main business was failing. Not at all. It was really driven by outside factors and strategic decisions. First, since they make so much money in US dollars, they took a hit when converting that cash back. Second, they had some temporary costs tied to managing their global inventory. And third, and maybe most importantly, they were spending money to make money, investing a ton in R&D and marketing to get their next big products ready for launch.
And that investment leads us directly to their next big chapter. Navien isn't just playing defense in the water heater market. They are going on offense to attack the absolutely massive 800 trillion won global HVAC market. And their weapon of choice is this thing called the condensing hydro furnace. This is not just another heater. It's a totally new way of thinking about the most common heating system in North America, and it is designed from the ground up to be a market disruptor. So why is it such a big deal? Well, for starters, it uses their special condensing tech to hit over 97% efficiency. That's a huge jump. Second, it fixes two of the biggest complaints people have about furnaces. It doesn't blast you with that super dry air, and it's safer. And finally, it can work as a hybrid system with a heat pump, so it can smartly switch between gas and electricity. It's efficient, it's comfortable, and it's built for the future. And get this, they're launching it right as this huge policy tailwind is picking up speed. The U.S. Inflation Reduction Act is basically throwing billions of dollars in incentives at consumers to get them to buy high-efficiency home appliances. So the government is essentially paying people to upgrade to the exact kind of products Navien makes. It's creating this powerful, ready-made demand for their stuff. Okay, so we've seen the big transformation, the global game plan, the financials, and the plan for future growth. Let's try to bring it all home and put it into a final snapshot for anyone thinking about this as an investment.
On the opportunity side, the list is pretty compelling. You have a dominant business in North America that's a cash cow. You have this huge new growth path with HVAC, and it looks like the company is seriously undervalued. The risks are basically the other side of that same coin. Being so dependent on the U.S. market opens them up to currency risk, they're exposed to swings in raw material prices, and of course, politics in places like Russia can always create surprises.
And this slide really highlights that undervaluation point. Just look at the price-to-earnings ratio, a key way to measure how much you're paying for a company's profits. Kyungdong Navien is trading around 7 times its earnings. Its biggest competitor in the U.S., A.O. Smith, is trading at more than double that, around 17 times earnings. Even with Navien's market leadership, the market is giving it a huge discount right now.
So, we end with this one big question. This is a company that has already proven it can go into a foreign market and win. It's got a brand new, innovative product line aimed at a massive industry, and on paper, it looks cheap compared to its peers. All the pieces seem to be there. The only question left is whether they can put them all together to double their business and break into that elite $2 trillion revenue club. That's the story investors are going to be watching.